Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is a video that I just wanted to put together towards kind of the end of the year, beginning of the new year for 2026. It's something I've been thinking about for quite some time, and I thought no better time to do it than right now, just because I know how the end of the year and the beginning of a new year, kind of affects certain people, right? You have some people that are excited for a brand new year, brand new fresh start, and then you have people that I guess look at the year that's passed. And, I'll be honest, I've done it. You may have done it yourself. Some people get a little self-conscious, right? You start to think about what have I accomplished? Where am I going in life? And for some people, that's a very good and motivating conversation. And for other people, not so much. So if you're one of those people that has ever been stuck in that rut, this video is kind of for you. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to tell you straight up, listen, I am not a licensed therapist, okay? I'm just sharing something with you guys that helped me out, and maybe it can help you or help somebody else out that you know. That's all I'm trying to do here. The topic for today is fatigue or tiredness as a whole and in basically different spectrums, right? So I got this idea to do this video because I saw an article and it came from none other than LinkedIn. In case I haven't mentioned it before on the channel, despite how I may look or how you may feel about me in my esoteric conversations, I am a slave to the corporate world. Okay, I'm not going to call it that. I actually like the job I'm at currently. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm in the corporate landscape, so that means at some point or another, I'm going to be jumping in and out of LinkedIn, right? And most of the time, it's BS. I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of LinkedIn posts are just goofy and wacky, but I don't know. For this one, it kind of stuck out to me. It struck a chord in me. And I just wanted to kind of go over it with you guys. It came from someone named, I believe, Kamal Sarma. That's originally where I saw the post, but you can find posts very similar, by other authors. So I'm not going to lie, I don't know where it originated from, but this is the original post that I saw. And it spoke about 5 different types of fatigue or tiredness. I say fatigue, I think he says tiredness, but it talked about 5 different types of fatigue, right? And I just think it was so important because the whole point of what he was trying to get at is some of these fatigues are things that you know. And just to kind of give you an example of what I'm speaking about so we can be on the same page, I'll start out with basic ones that you know, right? So fatigue number 1 is physical fatigue, right? If you've been at a gym, you know what physical fatigue feels like. If you are some type of, plant worker or, in manufacturing or something along those lines, you know what it's like to work, 16, 18-hour shifts. You know what that feels like. You know what physical fatigue feels like. We all do at some point because it's one of the easiest ones to identify. And you, for the most part, you know the remedies. You need rest. You need nutrients, maybe a good old massage or something along those lines, right? But for the most part, we know how to address physical fatigue. And then when we move on to the next one, we have mental fatigue. This is something that I face a lot because this is what happens with corporate people. I know a lot of people think, that there is a type of fatigue, right, for, of course, your hard physical workers that I just mentioned, right? But there is a fatigue that comes with corporate work and desk jobs as well, depending on your roles and duties. And that usually results in the form of mental fatigue. You kind of get brain fog, get glazed over after a long day because you've been doing calculations or you've been doing this or that. And I mean, trust me, I'm the kind of person that I don't look at anybody's type of work really above anyone else's. Everybody kind of plays their part. Everybody is a piece to the puzzle, right? That's genuinely how I look at it. All the way from a CEO to a company to, the French fry worker or the janitor. Everybody plays a piece to the puzzle. I don't like to sit here and say, I work harder than you or you work harder than me. Everybody's doing what they can do, right? In a perfect world, I guess, but I digress. But the point is, mental fatigue, that's when your brain just kind of feels like mush because you've been doing some kind of, mentally, what word am I looking for? See, I just got off work, so I'm drained already. But I guess mentally demanding is what I meant to say, sorry. But mentally demanding work, and that kind of just drives mental fatigue, and that can be identified, like I mentioned, with brain fog. Your brain feels like mush, you're zoning out after a long day, whatnot. And, it's not just work related. It could be something you're doing, in your day-to-day life as well that has you doing that. So it comes in different forms and for different reasons, right? third one, in my personal opinion, is where it starts to get a little bit, difficult as far as like identification. This is where we kind of get into that gray area, and this is why I wanted to make the video, because there are people in the next three I'm about to cover that you may not have been able to identify what you're feeling. You know you're feeling something, right? But you can't put a finger on exactly what it is. So the third one is emotional fatigue. And this usually comes from, let's say you're in a relationship, right? And this relationship, it doesn't have to be something that's like a romantic relationship. We're talking about friendships, we're talking about work relationships, and of course, romantic relationships, family even, right? And basically, if you are in a position or you feel like you just keep giving and you're giving and you're giving and you're doing all these things, you feel like you're bending over backwards, and you're putting emotion into it, right? You're putting, your blood, sweat, and tears into trying to make this thing work. And for some reason or another, you just keep feeling like you're being disregarded, disrespected, and it's just not really paying off. You're putting in everything, but you're not seeing anything grow from it. That could be, not necessarily, but it could be emotional fatigue that you're feeling. Some of the remedies recommended for this is going on a vacation, reassessing what it is that your role is or should be, right? Are you giving too much? Is the other person not reciprocating? Again, not necessarily romantic. We're talking work-wise, we're talking friendship-wise, and we're talking romance and, every other kind of relationship in between that you could be putting emotions into. Now, again, this is where it gets gray, right? Because I do also want to mention, some of y'all be delusional, okay? You didn't hear that from me, but it's something that you really do need to step back and think about, right? Are you considering, everything you're doing? Or are you considering everything they're doing? What does it look like? Does it feel reciprocal? Does it feel like you're doing too much? That's something you got to play by ear. Everybody's got a different case, right? But that is emotional fatigue. And we're going to keep moving on. And, by the way, I wanted to mention this too. When you look this up, you're going to see different numbers. All right. I picked this one because, like I said, it's the first one I initially landed on, but you can find some people that say there's 6 types. There are 7 types, and the numbers just keep fluctuating up and down. But for me personally, I feel like these 5 kind of hit everything in most day-to-day lives. Now, the next one is called values disconnect fatigue. And it's somewhat kind of sort of similar to the emotional fatigue I just mentioned. So keep that in mind. And this is why I say you really got to pay attention to what it is, but basically the values disconnect. What this one talks about is essentially you being in situations constantly where you are having to disregard your own beliefs or your own values for the sake of someone or something else. And this can weigh down on people because, let's be honest, your values are a part of who you are. They define who you are, inside, in your core, like who makes you as a person. So if you keep disrespecting those values, that's only going to erode at you and your inner self, for so long before something happens. And unfortunately, what usually happens with people is they turn to something to numb this, right? You turn to alcohol, you turn to drugs or other vices that can help you numb this feeling, right? Honestly, I feel like we see this a lot. I know this sounds like a tangent, but I feel like we see this a lot with Hollywood people, right? For whatever reasons, they say, such and such sold their soul. I feel like that's a big one too. When people say such and such sold their soul, I don't think that's a literal sense. That's me personally, but I feel like it's them compromising their values because essentially this is who you are as a core, at your core, this is who you are. So you're compromising who you are to fit into someone else's world for money or whatever. And at this point, I'm now zooming back out to just you and your day-to-day life, right? So you may be in a job or a situation or even a relationship where you're doing things that, at the end of the day, you don't want to do, but you're trying to please, this company or this manager or this spouse, whatever it is. And if you find yourself doing that way too much, because at the end of the day, you have to reciprocate, right? Everybody's going to do something that they don't really care to do in relationships. Don't tell my girlfriend this, but I don't like giving flowers as a gift. Now, is that making me, value-driven fatigue? No, it's not a big deal, right? But the point is, everybody has something. But when you find yourself doing way too much, you may be, compromising who you are as a person. This person has you doing weirdo stuff. Unfortunately, I know people in my life that have been with people who, did illegal activities. And they were not necessarily aligned with doing illegal activities themselves. I'm not incriminating anybody. I'm not saying anything. But my point is, they knew that they were not about that life. Literally, that's not their lifestyle. But they kept trying to, ignore it to stay with this person because they like this person. And that person wasn't going to give up what they were doing either, right? So you have to ask yourself, is this where you really need to be? At the end of the day, there's 8 billion, people on this planet. If you are waking up and finding yourself feeling like your soul has been drained out of you because you keep putting yourself in those situations, it may be time to reevaluate. Honestly, that person may not be the person for you because, one, that's the lifestyle that they're used to, and chances are you met them doing that lifestyle. And 2, they don't care that you don't like it. So, if they don't care and you do care, they don't care about how you feel about that, and that is dragging you down and causing you fatigue. It may be time to reevaluate. So that's just food for thought. Now, moving on to the last one, and I think this one is a huge one. This is a very, very huge one, in my opinion. And this one is called purpose fatigue. Purpose fatigue is very important, and I think it affects way more people than people give it credit for. Now, purpose fatigue, it's basically exactly what it sounds like. You can have everything else checked off, and that's what makes this one so scary because, oh man, okay, I'm gonna put my phone down. So this one is scary because you can have everything else going well for you, right? You can be physically, satisfied as far as like tiredness and fatigue levels go, so you can feel great. You can have great emotions. You can have great mental stability, but there's still something there, right? There's still something there. Even, your relationships could be cool. Your values could be cool. You're not having to sacrifice necessarily anything and having to go against your beliefs or your values, but there's still something missing. And this, in my opinion, is super important. So the purpose fatigue is exactly, like I said, what it sounds like. It's that you are almost just going through the motions in life. You don't really have anything that you're kind of looking forward to. Your job is a job. It's cool. It pays the bills. You like it. It's not too hard, but it's not necessarily something that you 100% like or that you're interested in. You're just, like I said, going through the motions, but it feels like something's missing. You don't have that purpose, that calling. There's nothing that like electrifies you, and this could be about your job. It could be about your relationship, whatever, but everybody has different purposes, right? Everybody has something that they gravitate to that makes them feel like that they belong. And sometimes you may not have that feeling, which is why I wanted to put it towards, this time of year, because like I said at the beginning of the video, sometimes people feel like that. Right? Sometimes people feel like, I've went through the entire year and I feel like I have nothing to show for it. I feel like I didn't grow, blah, blah, blah. You get the point. So the remedy for this, of course, is simple. You need to find a better purpose, whether that's a better hobby, whether that's a better job. It just depends. Some people, their purpose is they want to grow up and be a husband or a wife and father or mother, and I personally think that's fine. That's one of my goals at some point. So it just depends, what it is that you're looking for, and I highly encourage you to explore different options and try different things this year. One thing that someone else I heard mention on a podcast, right, completely different from this person that I mentioned, I believe Kamal on LinkedIn. They mentioned take a sheet of paper and basically just draw a line down the middle of that sheet of paper. And on one side, write everything that you like to do. Just list it off, everything you like to do. And on the other side, list off everything that you're good at. And if you see any overlap in those two columns, maybe you should start trying to explore those routes for careers. And I mean, I know some of y'all are going to get in this comment and y'all going to say dumb stuff like, I like eating. And I'm like, well, you know what? Fine. Go be Guy Fieri then. Listen, the world is yours, all right? Like, seriously, the world is yours. It's tons of things out there that you can do, right? And there's tons of skills you can learn. And I mean, if you found this on the internet, just remember, you're on the internet. Everything is on the internet. If you want to learn a skill, I guarantee you can start on the internet and set that goal. If it's a certain skill you want, you know, make a goal. I don't too much want to condone AI usage, but this is one of the times I think AI can actually help a little bit. So just ask AI, hey, can you make me a curriculum or kind of just a stair step, like a ladder to climb in learning this particular skill or learning how to break into this industry. You know, just give me some guide points. I think AI is cool for stuff like that. Not necessarily doing all the footwork for you, but just kind of giving you at least some kind of path to get in the ballpark. But yeah, those are kind of my recommendations. But like I said, the last one, the purpose one, it can drive people nuts. And a lot of people don't comprehend it well. I tried using an analogy, right? And even in the comments section, dude didn't get what I was talking about, or girl, I don't know. It's YouTube. I don't know who the hell y'all are. But I'll try to do the analogy here again. Hopefully, if you play video games, you understand where I'm coming from. So just to kind of really illustrate why the purpose one is such an insidious one that can creep up on you, like I mentioned earlier, you can have everything, right? So imagine you're playing Grand Theft Auto, right? You beat the story. Boom, you're done with that. And you done did some cheat codes and you got all the money. You got all the cars. You got all the weapons. You got everything in the game, right? But now what is the purpose of it? You've done everything. And let's be honest, it's Grand Theft Auto. We've all done that, right? We put the cheat codes in after we beat the game and you went around on the craziest murder spree and you shot everything up with rockets and you did this with the jetpack and you were in the boats and you know what I mean? You've done everything that you've cared to do, but now you're just there empty. And it's an empty feeling because you're all powerful. Nobody can touch you in the game, really. You know, you got all the money, you've bought every mansion, you've bought every car, you've done everything. What else is there to do? And that's where the purpose fatigue comes in. You know, that's why I said earlier, and I even mentioned this to my friends, I was like, this is why some rich people, super rich people are the way that they are, is because they're just kind of hollow inside. They have all the money, they can buy anything. They can, I don't want to say they can buy people if they wanted to, you know. But they can do anything and everything and they're bored now. There's nothing to do. So that's why I say it's very important to find your purpose, because when you don't have a purpose, it can lead you down some dark vices, very similar to the value disconnect. It can lead you down some dark paths if you don't have a clear path to travel down. You can get off the path and you can go into some dark forests. But again, hopefully just kind of painting this, roadmap, this picture for y'all. Hopefully it's impactful to somebody. I know some of y'all are going to be looking at this video like, man, get back to the conspiracy theories. Like I said, I just wanted to throw it out there. It's the end of the year. I know how some people feel. So I just wanted to, make this video. It's like an intermission, like a little intermission. But yeah, after this, we're going to get back into the conspiracy theory iceberg starting in 2026. So look out for some videos in early January. They're on the way, y'all. Other than that, I hope you guys had a fantastic 2025. And I hope you have a flourishing, productive, and happy 2026. Holler.
Hey.